こちらお願いします。ありがとうございます。
では、はい、この辺皆さんおかけいただけますでしょうか。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. Coming today, it's by the rain, but rain is always good because it brings great benefit for the nature. And today we will have a very interesting event. And my name is Khaldun Azhari. I'm the former president of this club, and I am member of PAC committee, professional activities committees that host and organize such a press conference. Today we have a very important case and very important speakers. I think it's rare to have such event. And our guest will talk about an issue of similar to hostile takeover by a foreign company to a Japanese core company, which some people think it might impact the national security or technological ability. And this case is now raised by the former chairman and the former and possible candidates for the board of Fujitec company. Let me first introduce my guest. First, we start with Mr. Takakazu Uchiyama. He's a former chairman of Fujitec Company Limited. Of course, chairman keeps the title forever, so he might come back soon. We never know. And also Mr. Kazuyoshi Kimura, Mr. Kenji Unenishi, and Mr. Hiroki Okimoto, outside directors, candidates for Fujitec Company Limited. Mr. Hiroki Kawai, attorney at law, he comes here often to represent cases, very well activist. I see him sometimes in demonstrations near the Tokyo court, so he is very well known, and maybe he will add value to our discussion today. Shareholder activism is a hot topic in corporate Japan, and milestone was reached this year when overseas fund Oasis Management won board seats of 75-year-old elevator maker Fujitec company and ousted its chairman and founding family. And a lawyer for Uchiyama declared it a foreign hijacking of a Japanese manufacturer. Activists say these companies are necessary to safeguard shareholders' rights and unlock corporate value, while others have different opinion. Then today we will have the discussion about this. The team will tell us what's their case and what's their hopes, and the lawyer will explain how they could win this case. And please, ladies and gentlemen, turn your mobile phone onto the silent mode, and we will have discussion or presentations for about 20 to 25 minutes, after which we will have a Q&A. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest speakers. Thank you.
Distinguished members of FCCJ, I would like to thank all of you for gathering and attending this press conference to explain our shareholders' proposal regarding Fujitec. I have submitted the shareholders' proposal. I'm the representative of Uchiyama International. My name is Takakazu Uchiyama. Our company currently holds about 10% of Fujitec shares, including relevant subsidiary companies. This company has 75 years of history since its establishment. This company is the only manufacturer of elevator machinery in Japan. We have been producing elevators and escalators, and for over 20 years and 30 years, a long-term period, Fujitec provides maintenance to these machines. Our wish is to normalize the management of this company, and that is the reason behind why we are making this proposal as shareholders. The current board meeting is only looking to the perspective of a specific shareholder. They have lost autonomy. It is a grave concern when it comes to the situation of the board. One of the major pillars of today's proposal is the independent or outside board member candidates. There are 8 of them. All 8 are completely independent of our own company. They have their own insights and experience. They have the capacity and are qualified to bring Fujitec back to a normal situation. Today, including the members on stage, 5 of the candidates are here at this press conference. At the venue, in the audience, we do have the candidates for outside board members. There's Mr. Kotegawa and Mr. Nishikawa present today. As you might have guessed, the current situation of Fujitec cannot be called normal. Now, I do see that part of the responsibility might lie with me, that I did not oppose and rebut appropriately to the things that had occurred. And last year, immediately after the general shareholders meeting, I have accepted the post of the chairman. It was per request of the company, but I have made a mistake in my judgment, and I regret this deeply. To the shareholders and 10,683 employees around the world, I would like to extend my heartfelt apologies to you all. I have been the president of Fujitec for a very long time. During my tenure, I have engaged in various dialogue with investment funds from within and outside of Japan. I have heard very constructive opinion with an eye on growth for Fujitec, and I have taken heed of such advice and used it in my management on various occasions. The funds would say, "Good job, good company," on many different occasions. However, when we look to our Fujitec's long-term business model, this is a completely opposite as a business model. It is short-term, nearsighted, and it is for the purpose of selling out for gains in such a short term. This is what the Oasis Management is doing, and they are controlling the board, and this goes beyond a single shareholder's rights. There is excessive involvement by the shareholder, and it is causing a governance issue to the company. In addition, Oasis claims that I use the employees to take care of my garden at home and also have the company pay for my son's tuition. They have fabricated parts of the private life of myself and my family. They are disseminating falsified information. And for this point, I have already filed a lawsuit for damages. Oasis, in the United States and in Hong Kong, outside of Japan and overseas, are currently being subjected to penalties for short selling and other practices.
That is the nature of Oasis, and this Oasis has already made reference in its interview dated April 18, 2023, in the Nikkei Shimbun newspaper and other media sources that they are intending to sell Fujitec. The CIO, Seth Fisher, said that if there is a proposal for acquisition towards Fujitec, Oasis will openly consider that possibility. In other words, this suggests that they are keen to quickly sell off the company. Now, in regards to M&A, it is something that careful consideration should be given to both social impact and whether it benefits the corporate value of Fujitec. As you know, elevators, they are being delivered to a number of significant facilities, both public and private. And the building system is connected digitally, meaning that there could be risks pertaining to economic security. At the same time, it could pose privacy risks due to the use of face recognition systems and surveillance cameras. This is a business which also requires social credibility. If the board were to be unstable, and amidst the concerns expressed by the employees and our suppliers, to make carelessly such statements without giving due consideration to its social impact is something extremely worrying to me. And the government, I'm sure, is keeping a very close eye on this development, I hear. Now, I'm going into today's topic, Fujitec, and its customers and users. I believe they think the company is in a state of crisis. In order to break away from this state, it is necessary for Fujitec that our shareholders' proposals be approved. The proposals that we are making are not designed for the founding family to try to regain management control of the company. In fact, if you look at the list of candidates of the outside directors, you will not see my name appear amongst the 8 names listed there. I myself feel a strong sense of crisis towards Fujitec, and likewise, the incumbent employees and the ex-employees are also expressing concern, anxiety to me directly. And these ex-employees and incumbent employees and Fujitec customers are supporting us, saying that the shareholders' proposals that we are raising will bring the situation back to normal. Now, to the reporters at FCCJ, I would like once again for you to understand the intention of our shareholders' proposal so as to bring Fujitec back to normal. This is not just an issue of one single company, Fujitec. No. Elevators, escalators have a very strong public nature. It's a very important mobility device. So I want to take this opportunity to tell you the facts so that we can normalize Fujitec's management and bring about safety and security to elevators that are used every day by many people, and to restore the true shareholders' value. Now I would like to call upon the direct candidates who have supported our proposals and have expressed the intention to support us. They will take the floor, beginning with Mr. Okimoto, please.
Thank you. My name is Okimoto, and I would like to keep this short about briefing you on the proposal made by the shareholders. The detail has been already released via press release, so I'd just like to share the background and key points. So I will skip this page about the background, and if you could go to page 5 on the English version of the handouts, I think this would show you the major outline. So there are 8 individuals as candidates for directors, including the 3 of us up here. And given the existing independent outside directors of Fujitec, I would have to say this with humble humility, but we believe that independence, skills, capacity, all the candidates are much better and competent compared to the current board members. And also realization of high dividends compared to what the company currently prepares, we promise a higher dividend. Third point, regarding the general interest of all shareholders, we will establish a corporate governance based for their interest. Changes of articles of incorporations and amendments are things that we have been proposing to ensure this. So the shareholder proposal, the reason behind this, if we could go back to page 3 of the English document. First of all, since February, the board members who have taken the positions, at the company side, the business strategy has not been shared at all from the company. The changes in directors, they are just meddling with HR, executive HR. That's all what they're doing. That's one thing. And from what we see, the board is being controlled by Oasis at their will. And on our homepage, we have explained this extensively. But Oasis is ordering the board in a very impolite manner. And the current board members have just agreed and follow their instructions. This is very problematic. An outside independent director's role, the independence for the interest of all shareholders. This is the intent and resolve all the candidates share in front of you today. So we would like to ask the shareholders give us that power to conduct the business. And as Mr. Uchiyama mentioned, Oasis, Fujitec is an important company based on economic security perspective. But Oasis is intending on selling the company off. Now, we don't oppose the action or the act of selling a company, but we are concerned about what that entails. A stable management and a stable proportion of shareholding is important, and we agree with the spirit, and that is the reason why we have agreed to sign on to this proposal. So, given the independence issue of the existing board members, at the Q&A I would be happy to respond, and Mr. Kimura, I'm sure, could brief you on this more. So I will not repeat that at this moment. But having said that, I would like to repeat this point. All of the candidates here, we are here. We don't say that all activist funds are evil. Yes, there are some mistakes. Fujitec, we have retained earnings too much internally. We were not able to respond to the capital market demands. I personally believe so. But in a positive manner, maybe Oasis did shake things up so that we come to realize this. But having said that, at the end of the document we've provided, Oasis, it's not only about Fujitec, other target companies that they've invested, the acts that they have conducted themselves or involved themselves in, please look at the performances of the target companies they've invested. It's not only Oasis, all shareholders, all stakeholders, it is not in their interest at all. So what Oasis is doing is not necessarily correct. In the case of Fujitec, as the former chairman, Mr. Uchiyama, said, it exposed the privacy of an individual and engaged in disinformation campaign with falsified information. Now, this is a business, and it should be fought in the arena of business and not outside of business. So shame on you, Oasis, is what I would like to say. So in this specific case, What Oasis is doing is not acceptable at all.
And also to enhance the corporate value, we do not see that Oasis is making effort or discussing those issues and making effort. We are very skeptical about the current board in these respects, and this is the reason for this proposal. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I am Kimura, one of the candidates of the independent outside director. I would like to share with you my motive and objective. There are 3 points. The first point, I had empathy and I agree with the shareholder proposal. Clients, business partners, executives, former employees, labor unions, and employees are all voicing their concerns. Now, with the responsibility as the management who was at the helm of the company, Mr. Uchiyama is not looking to come back to management. He just wants to normalize the business management to aim and be positioned for further growth. And from that strong commitment from Uchiyama-san, I agree with that, so I agreed with the proposal. Second point, if we are to aim for further growth, I have major concern with the current board of directors of Fujitec. At the extraordinary general meeting of the shareholders, there has been very severe judgment handed down. Now, from a specific shareholders' proposals, there were 4 independent directors selected. Immediately after the extraordinary session, there was one independent director on the company's side who escaped dismissal, who defected to their side. So the specific shareholder now enjoys a majority, and ever since, any internal director's opinion or the auditor's opinions are ignored, and they are just trailblazing and strongly adopting any proposals that are made. So there is ambiguity that remains in this process, and the employees are having major concerns, and the business partners as well. There is no dialogue or no buy-in. The management need to be independent from specific shareholders. That is the basics of a governance in running a board of directors. Third point, from such concerns, the board of directors must be fair and engage in open debate, not removing people of diverging views or those who oppose specific positions. So I would make all-out efforts to normalize the board of directors where people can face each other of different opinions face to face. And the employees are having major anxieties while the company system is changing dramatically. So I hope to be proactive in engaging dialogue with all stakeholders, including the shareholders, than ever before. Now, the major mission is to have a robust and sustainable growth. This is a business challenge, and for strategizing this, we need to resume such active engagement and initiatives towards growth. What's important here is to engage in dialogue with Fujitec employees who are the major drivers of bringing this great strategy for growth. We want to have a buy-in by the employees and have empathy from them. We want to have a responsible board member to enhance the corporate value that will be reviewed and accepted by the market.
Thank you very much. And one of the candidates, Uenishi Kenji, would like to give an explanation. I believe I will be explaining about Fujitec's growth strategy later on, but first, allow me to introduce very briefly my background and personal experience. I have experience of leading 14 countries, achieving annual sales of 600 billion, and serving as a president for 6 years at the GE Energy Asia Pacific. Over the 6 years that I served as president, we have seen a sales growth rate of 50%. That is my track record. And the next number I would like to present to you is the 1 trillion yen global supply chain system. When I was a senior executive director of Lixil, I led the building of this system. And if I may add, I was an engineer, and I have acquired a PhD in engineering, developing aero engines. And now allow me to talk about the growth strategy direction of Fujitec. We are considering 4 pillars for growth. First is the top line growth. In other words, improving sales. And the second is the bottom line enhancement. In other words, the profit ratio improvement. And the third is to emphasize technology innovation and develop products with competitiveness. And number 4 is to strengthen M&A and partnerships. These 4 pillars are regarded the growth strategy. These 4 pillars are common, may sound as if they're common with other companies, but over the past 75 years, as an independent elevator manufacturer, Fujitec has been able to grow as the world's big 4 and is aiming to further grow with these 4 pillars. In the interest of time, let me just elaborate on one of the 4 pillars, that is the Asian market. Why are we focused on Asia? The elevator industry is said to be a 12 trillion yen market worldwide, of which the Asian market accounts for 6 to 7 trillion yen. In other words, 55 to 65, 70% of the total market. Also, globally, compared to the West, the Asian growth rate is significant. Fujitec is an Asian company. And as an Asian company, it has to win in its home market of Asia. In the Asian strategy, together with the Asian offices and the Hikone Big Wing head office engineers, we will improve communication and offer our customers customer support system which outperforms the competition. And for this purpose, we will focus on global talent and human resources development of Asian local staffs. In the age of digitization, we need to enhance the motivation of our employees and enhance the value of the company. And in this age and time of digital, a number of innovative startup companies are emerging in the elevator industry. And we believe that searching for potential partners, startup companies and local companies are significant for our corporate strategy. Top-line growth, bottom-line enhancement, technical innovation, competitive product development, M&A partnership strengthening are the focuses of our strategy, by which we want to realize sustainable growth. We want to offer corporate governance which will be committed to these 4 pillars. I believe that the 8 candidates are committed to this strategy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentations. We'd like to open the floor to your questions. If you have any question, please raise your hand and proceed to either of the mics and state your name and affiliation first. Who'd like to take the first question? Okay, while you're thinking about it, let me just have clarifications. I heard that Oasis plans to sell the Fujitec company off. So do you have more information about it? To whom it's going to be sold? Is it to another big country in Asia, for example? Thank you.
The other day, I think it was NHK, there was some news reporting that they are considering selling it off. Regarding the country, we have not heard anything. That's if my memory serves right.
Yes, question? All right. Do you plan? Yes, please. Go ahead. Please come to the mic and ask questions. Go to the mic here.
産経新聞の今中と。
Imanaka from Sankei Shimbun newspaper. Thank you. A question to Mr. Uchiyama. First, well, in Japan, there are other major elevator companies, but as the moderator introduced, this is regarded as hijacking. Now, why was Fujitec targeted? Well, I don't know if I should say targeted, but what are your thoughts as to why Fujitec was targeted? And Mr. Uchiyama, you mentioned economic security. And in the material that you gave us, it talks about the fact that Fujitec has installed 1,000 elevators to public buildings, government buildings. And what kind of technology are you fearful of being exported overseas? And why do you say that this pertains to economic security risk? Well, about your question. Our company, well, we have a lot of retained earnings, and including governance as a company, we have a high payout ratio. And to the investors, we are listening to their voices and have been running the company listening to the voices of investors. I think that this is one of the major characteristics or reasons why we were targeted. And about elevators recently, as I mentioned in my speech, and bell system, well, it's the same for escalators, but well, digital, everything is digitally controlled, and therefore, the elevator in the building is positioned as such, and operating elevators, all this can be monitored. Now, looking at the recent elevators, even with your smartphone, you can manage the operation. So you can look at the status of each of the elevators. Also, there is a face recognition system and surveillance cameras. All these things are attached. Plus, there is a SafeNet center. So for each of the elevators, they are controlled in a single location. So including the government buildings and airports, and also the Ministry of Defense, and also the Self-Defense Force. So in all these locations, we have delivered our elevators. And if Fujitec were to be acquired by a foreign capital company, it would have a major impact on Japan's economic security, we believe. Well, if I may, Mr. Nishikawa is here as a candidate, outside director, and he is originally from the police agency, and also he has been seconded to the defense ministry. So may I ask Mr. Nishikawa to add some comments? And thank you very much for the introduction. I'm one of the candidates of the outside directors. My name is Nishikawa. Well, yes, I'm one of the candidates, and I am a candidate of an independent outside director. So it's difficult for me to make statements on this. But when it comes to national security, it's not really the number one issue here, but I think that because there is the possibility of information outflow, it has been regarded as a risk in various places. But I myself, at the Cabinet Office, have been working on crisis management. And given this experience, and also more broadly, elevators or escalators, these in modern time, if a problem were to occur, you have to think about how much impact it will have. Well, it might not be life-threatening, but there are high-rise buildings these days, and it will have major impacts on people's life and bringing about great concern. So in the future, I think that if things progress as is, it could pose a risk to national security. So this is a type of discussion that is underway, starting to be seen in different parts. Just like, well, is it as urgent as a rocket flying over Japan? No, it's not that urgent an issue, but thinking about the future, I think that this is something that we have to attach importance to. And I myself, if I may, I have an engineering background, and I have been doing urban planning, and one of the points of interest was aging of society, and also trying to enhance the safety security of regional communities. And escalators and elevators, I think, will play a major role in people's daily lives considering these developments. So we want to have a secure situation in place so that people can feel safe and secure. And that is the reason why, when I was asked to, I was accepted to become a candidate of an outside director. Thank you.
Yes, please.
My name is Nakamura from Asahi Shimbun. I have 3 questions. So, Kimoto-san, you said first that Oasis has been instructing the board of directors. If you have any specifics that you could share, please do so. That's the first. And second, this was Uchiyama-san or Nishi-san, if I could ask, if the proposal is passed, how would you did mention the intent for the management of Fujitec. What was lacking in Fujitec up until now? It was management. And what are the areas you would like to reinforce? Can you give us some direction and more specifics? Now, third is, of course, among the information disclosed from Fujitec, the third-party committee has concluded, or the company has concluded that Uchiyama-san has not been cooperative, but you also maintain that you were cooperative, or if you had an intent in not being cooperating to the investigation by the third-party committee. Please tell us what is the situation on that point. Well, thank you. From Okimoto, I would like to answer the first question. What kind of instructions were made from Oasis to the board of directors? I do have the information here, but Free Fujitec is the website. The information is there. And also in the handout, if you could go to page 21 of the Japanese version, there is a letter from Oasis, and if you could look at that, I do have that here, but so this is all the demands on the left side. They have made a request and demand, and if you look at it, it is a very impolite language that they use, as if they're ordering the board of directors. Like, you must sever any ties with Mr. Uchiyama, the chair of the board, etc., etc. There are 8 items on this wish list or letter, and everything has been conducted and executed based on that. As for the deliberation that took place in the meeting, we don't know about that. But everything has been accepted and executed per this request letter. And it is always been an emergency motion, so it was done in haste, and people are not being well informed to make informed decisions. So I cannot imagine that this is a true board and how a board should behave. Now, in addition to that, as in the news reporting we have heard, that unanimously they have agreed on the severing of or the third-party meeting, and maybe 10 days later they disclosed that information. So we were not informed. So the independent board members who have been sharing that information prior to any decisions or anything happening with Oasis. That's what I would like to say. And let me add something. Oasis, they have 17% shareholding. And a shareholder with 17% can actually, through a motion or proposal for selecting independent board members, through this movement, they are able to dominate, and they're sharing information with a board. That is a very dangerous and precarious situation that we should be concerned about. And at the extraordinary shareholders meeting, they were elected, and it made sure that they were at an advantage, even if it's slight. But the basis for the decision of the other shareholders is the business dealings that the Fujitec company and the RPT that they had, because the founding family, they made this into a scandal, and that's a typical method the funds use about the related party transaction. And to the general public, it looks skeptical, it looks fishy. So they've been very crafty. They've crafted this message and campaign towards the founding family. And if you look at the attacks and claims they've made, there are no substantiation with data, so the facts are not there. It's just speculation. All of them are speculation. And if it's just speculation towards the founding family, and if you're trying to prove your innocence, this is not acceptable. This is the campaign and how it is well crafted. And I go back to the basics. They're using a typical tactics by a fund. And the board's acceptance of or perception and understanding was not sufficient enough. They underestimated the power of Oasis. And so there were a lot of changes, and that fed more skepticism toward the management and the founding families. So even if the shareholder only has 17%, they are dominant and controlling the board, and that is very problematic.
Go ahead.
Let me just say something. I think there were the second question or the third question. The third party committee, I think we will have more discussions, but let me elaborate a little bit and answer your second question, the future vision for management if this proposal passes. If I may add a little bit more, Fujitec, 65% of the sales is outside of Japan. Another is that 70% of the employees is non-Japanese. So it's outside of Japan. And if you think of future growth, of course, Japan is a viable market, but overseas is the source of growth. This is the main core of the growth of this company. So you have to have an overseas growth strategy. And how you foster talent of those non-Japanese employees, the executive directors, senior executive directors, there are none who are non-Japanese. Can we call this a global company? Can we be competitive as a global company? I think this is one negative point based on my past experience. So what I think is that we have to tap into the global talent and foster future generations in the global talent pool. That's even more important we need to focus on that even more than just product development. And let me go back to your question, Oasis, about the methodology of attacking the Uchiyama family. In a nutshell, if I may be honest, Oasis is resorting to fake news. It is completely a fake news. A falsified information has been created, and it is disseminated tenaciously to a broad audience. This is what they call campaign. It's a typical method they resort to. It's their jargon. When they say campaign, this is what they do, this information. And what I hear is that some are from Mossad, from Israel, going back 4 decades. They go to a background check of individuals, and they continue to make news and information to feed skepticism toward individuals. So that is a reality of the campaign that they have been turning on us. Now, if I may specific, the most easy to understand case, or what they call is important, the DOMS 104, the apartment in question, the real estate in question for the RPT. Now, 290 million yen was the price tag that the company bought this condominium. And the objective was, in Tokyo, this person wanted to use this as a guest house for top sales. So this person in question used it as a guest house and actually delivered great results. He or she enjoyed great growth in sales in the central part of Tokyo. But due to COVID, they were no longer able to have entertainment as a way of diplomacy or sales activities. So the role of this condominium in question was done. So with the price tag of 370 million yen, the Uchiyama-san bought it. So 80 million was penciled in as a profit for the company. But Mr. Sass is saying that that real estate cost 700 million yen, and you only sold it for 370 million yen. So there is a loss of 300 and plus million yen to the company. But there are no evidence shown to support their case that that condominium costs 700 million yen, and it doesn't cost that much. And our side, we have taken 2 estimates from different companies, and we bought it at the optimal or appropriate price range as a company. So the sales department used this condominium and contributed greatly to sales, and they had 70 million to 80 million profits from selling off the condominium to the family. The more important point here is regarding this transaction. This is among those who are of interest in the company, what is called the related party transaction. You need the approval from both the board, and the board has been shared all information, and it was approved and passed at the board member. And the person in question had to be removed because he had a direct interest. And the auditors also approved this, and also the auditing firm had disclosed all of information and approved this practice. Tax authorities have been informed, and they said there were no major issues with this transaction. They made no case of this at all. All necessary procedures were taken, but their claim is this condominium was supposed to cost 700 million, but they sold it for half the price, and it is not acceptable. The general public can believe this talk. The gardener issue is another issue. So this was a part-time job, a gardener who was working for the company. Outside of his work time, he got private assignment and got a private payment. No major practice issues or infringement of anything. And he had this old Fujitec uniform he just liked wearing when he was doing gardening. And his photo was taken by a third party. And now Mr. Uchiyama supposedly have used his personnel for his personal purposes, which is not true. So all this disinformation and rather than us rebutting, it doesn't end anywhere. So for 38 items, we have filed a lawsuit of defamation. And so the damages we are asking for is 1.7 billion yen or so. And rather than engaging in this fight, we would like to see a closure at the courts. And we are very confident that so we did file a suit. For this action does prove that he is innocent. If we had any doubts, we would not be filing. And so we made this lawsuit.
And in regards to the third-party committee, as you mentioned, as a lawyer, I must say that the third-party committee, this is a private-to-private procedure. So trying to settle an argument, it's not an appropriate method, and therefore we have to delegate it to justice and have the court hand down a decision. That's what we actually did. And I think that in this case, because they're going after annual 10%, 20% yield, and also in a 5-year exit, so they're going after short-term interest, profit. And so these people who are very short-sighted and have this money at hand, they were looking for a good target, and they saw that we had a lot of retained profit, and we are a very serious manufacturer, and the manager is a relatively easygoing person, and that is why they targeted us, and they staged this scandal campaign to try to acquire the company. I think that's what happened, and I believe that such cases will continue to occur. I think we're already seeing this at the AGM. You see that there are many such companies. At the end of June, we are about to see, and Bunkashata is one of such examples, I think, and in other annual general meetings, we'll see similar things happen. So these funds, which are going after short-term profit, these hawks, they are targeting Japanese companies, and this means that the Japanese manufacturing will hollow out. And after they sell off the company at a high price, the stock prices will plunge, and then you will see that the retained profit will disappear. So I really love this country, and I'm a patriot, and that is the reason why I may say this. Well, about the RPT, the related party transactions, allow me to add some explanation, especially as I said earlier briefly. Fake news. Well, Oasis is trying to use fake news as a means to stage a negative campaign via the media. Over the past year, even this year, after the beginning of this year, they say that I stole the company's money, and at the Manex Forum, that is what they actually say. So I really cannot tolerate this anymore, and that is the reason why I decided to file this lawsuit. So disseminating fake news, as I said, activists, I'm not really denying their presence, but the way they do it, their tactics are immoral. And for example, including my family, if you were to experience the same thing that we experienced over the past year, how would you feel? For example, they introduced the house layout, and they also look into the registry of our family and have a detective follow us. And if they say that the route that I commute to the company has changed, so they try to disclose such information. And the same is true for my family. So they investigate everything and disclose the information through social media. So this kind of thing is something that I feel very problematic morally, because overseas, if there is such families who are suffering from such things, they will not be tolerated. Using social media and other means, if fake news were to be disseminated about yourself and your family, you really would feel that it's intolerable. So please understand that this is the case. I'm not trying to attack or deny activists, but there is a way of doing things. And also, about the RPT, we've disclosed this in our website. And it's not the case where the founding family is cooperative. And was it August 10th that they started? And at the end of December, we were thinking that they would continue it. And because it did not end in January, February at the board of directors, we did resolve that the third party committee continue. But after the emergency shareholders meeting, it was terminated because Free Fujitec. In the Free Fujitec homepage, we give a chronology of what has happened. So please view our website for the details. About the activists, we have Mr. Kotegawa, who has in-depth knowledge about activists, and he is also a candidate of the outside directors. So please.
小手川でございます。私は
Hello, I am Kotegawa, and I took MBA at Stanford, and at the time I learned quite a lot. And when I applied this in practice, this was, of course, when we established the industrial revitalization organization and initiatives here in Japan. So with people I work with, we wanted to make sure that the management resources, we focus on the part that is profitable, and we realign and organize or discard the ones that are not making profits. So that's the kind of practice I've been involved in. And so I have been learning about Oasis, and that's exactly what they're claiming to do, to look at so focus on what is profitable, and non-profitable part is something to be carved out. So that's what I've been doing with the Industrial Revitalization Corporation as well. But that's what everybody says. But the reality of what Oasis has been doing in Japan and the target companies, what happened to them after the involvement of Oasis? Due to time constraint, I will not be able to share with you. But if you look at the handout, you see this green page. It's called the Oasis Management Company, and on API Consultants, page 18, there is a detail. So if I may share a little bit of that, I think it should give you some idea. There is Katakura Kogyo, and they had an employee of about 1,500. And in the past 4 years, 1/4 of them had to leave the company. And this company, Katakura Kogyo, or Katakura Industries, the owner was the Kagoshima Higashi Indo company. This company was sold to this company in Higashi Indo Gaisha. So what I'm trying to say here is, so again, this was a hijacking by Oasis, and they were trying to make this into a better company, but they focused on real estate and some key components and other mechanical and other engineering departments, they cut them off. But if you look at this document, when they were saying they will focus their resources on the textile, actually, they claim that they will focus on this textile business, but that is declining the most in profitability and sales. And this was the owner who has this company or entity as a part of tax evasion or tax benefit measures, so from Hikari Tsushin. So I thought that Oasis was about to do something good because the messaging seemed right. And I thought that the business performance would have improved. So I kept on looking at other investments Oasis made, but I could not find any of them. It was most unfortunate. Because I was involved in Industrial Revitalization Corporation when we established this entity, and I had the cutting-edge information and knowledge experience from the United States and wanted to use this for Japan and Japanese companies, it makes me sad to see such a situation. One of Mr. Murakami Yoshiaki, he went to the same high school as I did. He's a junior for me. And he became the first activist fund. And I did actually consult him a lot when he started his business. But if I look at what Oasis is doing, it's not the sheepskin of an activist, but green mailers or Furthermore, vulture fund, they're not even that. It's worse than that. It's more than that. I created a word. It is called a mountain leech fund. You know how a leech in the mountains, they suck your blood of animals, so the animal becomes void of the blood and dies. That's exactly what they're doing to this company. Katakura Kogyo, all the securities, marketable securities and real estate they had, they sold them off, and they created the resources for payouts of dividends, and they paid out the dividends, and they actually sucked everything out. And now, as for China,
質問の
Well, I think that was the intention of your question, but there are no specific information on third countries. But Fujitec from the past has this big factory in the capital of this big country, and it is a general purpose technology, and there are some 200 plus type technologies which are used for defense purposes. And that is the reason why there was this company which wanted to set up a joint venture with Fujitec. But Mr. Uchiyama, considering those risks that I explained, did not turn down that offer. But recently, looking at the board members, the candidates that have been announced, one was the head of that Fujitec company in the big country, and the other is president of a foreign capital company. And this person also in that country has worked a long time. So looking at the lineup of the candidates that they came up with, it is of great concern to us.
I think we have a chance for last question, please. Go ahead. Yes, please.
NHK の
Shimai from NHK. About activists. I have a question about activists. Well, though it was a campaign, Oasis from last year, be it the candidates of directors, and also they put a resolution to the shareholders meeting, and it was passed, adopted, and as a result, you were dismissed. But so looking at the stock market of the past 10 years, I think through reform, foreign investors have come to invest in Japanese companies, and so it's become easier for the shareholders to raise their voice, and the shareholders' proposals are being more readily adopted or passed. But looking at it from Fujitec's point of view, the reform of the Japanese stock market, what do you think are the current issues that need to be addressed? What things need to be improved with the current Japanese stock market? And the second question, this is about Fujitec per se. You say that there is concern and discontent about the management of Fujitec amongst the employees, as well as your suppliers, partners, and you're hearing such voices, and you expressed your concern over China. But if this were to continue, what kind of impact will it have on your business? So where will you do you think that you'll see a decline in sales? What cannot be developed? Can you be more specific as to what impact you are anticipating? Let me answer the first question. Well, as you see from my CV, I worked in the capital market for a long time, and also as an outside director in Japan. I have served about 10 years for the only listed securities firm. So allow me to answer your question. Now, as you've mentioned, yes, activists, those shareholders who voice their opinion, we call them activists, but there are a variety of activists. So looking at the AGMs, there are those which are making proposals for the business strategy per se, and others who are trying to to try to sell and buy and to get a big return. So going after arbitrage. So there are different types of funds, though we say activists. So I don't think that they are the same across the board. However, having said that, in our capital market, as a person who was an insider, I think one thing that we have to reflect on is that the Japanese companies were lagging behind in that respect. And with these activists coming in, we say that because there are such players in the market and because they have stirred and brought about this turmoil, the Japanese companies have started to brace themselves in. For example, the reallocation of capital, for example, the funds, the activists. They see that there is an excessive asset and also retained profit, and this should be returned more to the investors or reinvested. So when it comes to capital allocation, the Japanese companies tended to be conservative, but they posed a question to that approach. And as a result, many companies started to feel this tension, and as a result, there are companies that have evolved. So there are those positives that the activists have brought about. But specifically about Oasis, the Oasis itself, I personally do not think everything is bad about Oasis, but for Fujitec, the fact that they have taken this tactic and then disseminated fake news and fabricated information. They have used these tactics so as to gain control of the management. This is unfair, and I think that we should oppose this strongly and stand up to Oasis. So, as I said, it is important to have a sense of tension and try to stimulate management. And so not all activists are bad. And governance.
時間です。でも、last, make final remarks, please.
じゃあもう簡単に。
I'll be brief. So governance, again, I think that the Japanese companies have been protected by stable shareholders in the past. So we need to think about governance more, and activists have reminded of this. So this is a positive, and I think the Japanese companies have to reform in such a way.
And then related to the business, our clients and business partners and former employees and current employees, as well as executives, we do have over 10,000 people within our group, and they are worried. And I keep on saying this: one board, one company, one Fujitec. That's been the slogan from top to bottom of the organization. There should be a good flow in managing the company and our clients and business partners. We have businesses over 2 decades and 3 decades, and in Tokyo as well, we have an accumulation of our history of 2 to 3 decades. So in mid to long term, we do need to have a good business plan and strategy to be deployed in the market, or else our business value will not be enhanced. With a short-term perspective, our company will always face problems. This is my recognition of the situation.
We reached the end, but I cannot help but ask this very short question. What is the position of Ministry of Trade and Industry and Economy, MITI, on your case? Can you give me in one word, do they support you, or yes or no? Thank you.
So METI position, I don't know. I am not aware. But recently, METI has announced, for example, regarding TOB, that the business management should not oppose just to protect their position. So the liberalization of the Japanese market, it's in relation to what the previous question. So the guideline has been established, and I do agree with that. But it's related to the previous question. But do we allow any kind of practice as a measure against what's not going well? We have to think about the Japanese companies and make sure they are prepared. So for Google, they have the preferred stocks, and of course the business management have the ones with the voting rights, and those who do not have, just those who pursue profits and yields. So that's clearly defined as a separate type of shares. But we don't have such a listed company in the Japanese stock market at this moment. So that's something to be considered for the future. That's just my personal opinion.
Up our event today. Thank you very much for coming. all speakers, thank you very much for your insights and coming here, and we hope we hear more about this from you. Ladies and gentlemen, have a nice evening, but please, we have a press conference of Foreign Minister after like 50 minutes, so please wrap up also the tables and leave. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.